Do you ever look at the people around you and say, oh my goodness, I don't belong here. I'm not good enough to be here. Personally, I feel this imposter syndrome all the time. But believe it or not, this feeling of insecurity is actually a good thing. And in this episode, I want to talk about the power of insecurity and then give you 4 ways that insecurity can actually help you in your ministry. Hey, I'm Larry Witzel. This is another ministry insight from SermonView. We've got some great content coming in the next few weeks on how to use social media for church outreach, the importance of using language that includes your guests, and why it's healthy to sometimes do things that you're not good at. So subscribe to the podcast or the YouTube channel so that you don't miss an episode. That would mean a lot to me. Imposter syndrome. That's when competent people find it impossible to believe in their own competence. You know that saying, fake it till you make it? Well, imposter syndrome is that terror that you feel that people are going to discover that you actually are faking it, that you really don't know what you're doing. A few years back, I was invited to join the board of trustees for a college in California. They were looking for someone with marketing and entrepreneurial experience, and the board chair knew me. He called me up and asked if I was willing to join the board. Well, first of all, what an incredible honor to be asked. But I also doubted the value that I could bring, and I gave him some good reasons why I wasn't a good choice. But he asked me to pray about it, and a couple days later, I agreed. Let me tell you, I felt way out of my depth. For an entire year, at meeting after meeting, I felt like an imposter wasting their time. It was bad. At almost every meeting afterwards, I fully expected to get a phone call from the chair telling me that they'd made a mistake and could I please resign to make space for someone more competent. In my head, I knew the value that I was bringing. With my MBA, I had earned a terminal degree from a respected institution, and I had worked for 4 years in the advancement office of a university. In my head, I felt that I might belong, but in my heart, I was an imposter. It wasn't until a full year later, when a question came up that I was able to answer because of my precise mix of knowledge and experience, that this feeling finally ebbed. For a while, but it kept coming back. Do you know what I'm talking about? The odds are you have felt imposter syndrome too. In fact, Dr. Peter Shallard, a psychologist who works with entrepreneurs, states that about 70% of American adults have felt the effects of imposter syndrome at some point. 70%. But here's the thing. Dr. Shallard suggests that this is a good thing. When this existential doubt manifests, he says that means something incredible is happening. You're pushing yourself. When you feel imposter syndrome, he wrote, you're experiencing the real-time effects of holding yourself to an extraordinarily high standard of performance. In fact, he points out that the opposite of imposter syndrome is more dangerous, what's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. That's when an unskilled person suffers from the illusion of superiority, mistakenly rating their abilities much higher than average. And the fact is, actual competence will weaken your confidence because as you get smarter and better at something, you become more humble and aware of your shortcomings. Proverbs 26:12 says, do you see a person wise in their own eyes? There's more hope for a fool than for them. And the Apostle Paul wrote, if you think that you're wise by this world's standards, you need to become a fool to be truly wise. So, if you're feeling imposter syndrome, if you're feeling insecure, there's incredible power in insecurity. Feeling insecure while uncomfortable has the potential to be a powerful force for personal growth, self-awareness, and transformation. Let me give you 4 ways that there's power in insecurity. First, feeling insecure can be a catalyst for growth. Insecurity can illuminate areas where you feel inadequate or unprepared. It can motivate you to learn, to improve, to develop new skills. This discomfort can push you to step outside your comfort zone and seek personal growth. That also helps increase your self-awareness. Recognizing your insecurities can help you better understand your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. This self-awareness is a critical first step in building confidence and addressing any underlying issues. Second, insecurity can fuel creativity. Insecurities often arise when you question whether you're good enough. This self-doubt can drive you to experiment, to innovate, to create something meaningful, to prove your capabilities to yourself. And it can unleash entirely new ways of doing ministry. Third, insecurity fosters empathy and even connection. When we face our insecurities, we become more attuned to the struggles of others. The shared experience of vulnerability helps us relate to others' pain and challenges. Openness about our flaws and struggles can dissolve walls of perfectionism and create spaces for genuine connection. Sharing insecurities helps people feel less alone, strengthening relational bonds. And finally, perhaps most importantly, insecurity cultivates humility. In a previous video, I talked about how pride is a natural byproduct of success. And as God works through you to achieve success, it's important to actively exhale this pride. Well, that feeling of insecurity reminds us of our limitations, fostering humility. This helps you be more open to feedback, more open to collaboration, to learning from others. It can also help build resilience. Working through insecurities strengthens your emotional resilience. Each time you face your fears or doubts and come out stronger, you develop greater confidence and inner fortitude. Remember, God's strength is made perfect in weakness. There's not a week that goes by that I don't have at least a moment of feeling insecure in myself. Especially whenever I walk into a new place with new people, fear rises up inside me. I almost always feel insecure. My heart starts racing and I'll catch myself taking quick, shallow breaths. Well, someone once told me that when you're feeling insecure, stand up straight, take a deep breath, throw your shoulders back, and put on a big smile. Then go start engaging with somebody. And even if that feeling of insecurity doesn't go away, you're still giving the gift of yourself to those you interact with. Now, I do want to acknowledge the growing mental health problem that anxiety has become. I'm not a psychologist, and I'm certainly not your therapist, but in some cases, this feeling of insecurity can rise to a level that drives mental illnesses like depression and anxiety and even personality disorders. And if insecurity is consuming you, I encourage you to get professional help. But feeling insecure occasionally is healthy. It's normal. It's a good thing. So don't dwell on your insecurity. Feel it, recognize it, but don't sit in it. Don't let it consume you. Get comfortable with insecurity. You'll notice that in this episode, I didn't give you 4 ways to eliminate that feeling of insecurity, just 4 reasons why that feeling of insecurity is actually a good thing. It means that you're pushing yourself. So use it as a catalyst for growth and creativity. Use it to help you become more empathetic to those around you. And most importantly, let that feeling of insecurity drive you back to God, in whose love you should be able to feel incredibly secure. Embrace the humility that comes from that feeling of insecurity and put yourself out there. Your family needs you. Your church needs you. Your community needs you. Insecurity is a good thing, so push through it. Pastor, I know that you're in a position that's exposed. Sometimes people criticize your choices, and it can lead to feelings of insecurity. But please remember, God called you. He gave you responsibility for this church, for these people. And you are the one that He chose for this moment at this church. So if you're feeling some insecurity, that's good. Just remember, you're exactly who God wants. Listen to the voices affirming your calling. Be courageous and follow Jesus wherever He leads. I love you guys. I'm cheering for you. I'll see you next time.